On this week's video, we are going back to the classics because it's Hammer time once again as we check out the Hammer Mummy movies. I've already done Hammer Dracula, I've done Hammer Frankenstein. It's about time I got to this one. Kind of closing out the Hammer series of movies. I know that there's lots of other Hammer movies that even had like 1 or 2 installments, but these were the ones that actually had like longer running series worth. So I figured it's about time to check it out and let's see if it has any timeline and unwrap the continuity. Yeah, sorry. After the final appearance of the Universal Studios Mummy in 1955's Abbott and Costello Meet the Mummy, this series was picked up by Hammer Studios, following up on their revivals of Frankenstein and Dracula. Their first entry was 1959's The Mummy, directed by Terence Fisher, who was responsible for a large number of the Hammer horror films and fresh off of his restart of Drac. It starts in 1895 with Peter Cushing, of course, because it wouldn't be a Hammer flick without him. I mean, he was Van Helsing and Baron Frankenstein, so it's no surprise to see him step into the iconic role of John Banning. His father is here as well, played by Felix Almer, who was actually alive in 1895, and they're on an archaeological dig in Egypt. They find an ancient tomb and discover the Scroll of Life, but Stephen sees something that sends him into a catatonic state. It then jumps ahead to 1898, 3 years later, and Pops wakes up and warns that he revived the mummy and that it will come for them. And then you have this Robbie Coltrane, Chris Farley hybrid man here, and after his crate gets dumped into a bog, the mummy Charis is revived. And it's actually Christopher Lee under those bandages and under that mud. And this guy's quick when he needs to be, killing the Elder Banning while accidentally revealing the suit's zipper in the process. There's flashbacks to 4,000 years ago with Mr. Lee in brownface as he tries to use the scroll to return his lost love to life and is punished for the act, having his tongue cut out and buried as a mummy. And back in the present, that mummy then crashes through a door, and legend has it that a grip accidentally bolted it, so when Lee crashes through it, it actually dislocated his shoulder, and that's the shot that is used in the film. Sidebar, why is it that whenever people find ancient texts in movies, their first instinct is to read them aloud? Just like read it to yourself, guys. When John realizes his wife looks like Ananka, he proves to be quite the charmer.
She was considered the most beautiful woman in the world.
Oh, I am flattered.
Mind you, the world wasn't so big then.
Looks like someone's sleeping on the couch tonight. Charis proves immune to shotgun blasts and spears, but not the lovely Isabel, and eventually a final face-off is forced, with Charis taking the young lady away, and an ending almost identical to the universal entry The Mummy's Ghost, with the Big K walking into the bog, but in this one, she's saved, and then he's shot by several shotgun blasts, sinking into the muck. It actually took 5 years for a sequel to arrive with 1964's Curse of the Mummy's Tomb, which didn't really bring anyone back from the previous entry, but let's hear it for 2 films in a row that just plop the date up on the screen, as this one is in the year 1900, 2 years after the ending of the last one. And we're in Egypt again, with a surprisingly graphic hand chopping for 1964. There's another archaeological dig, and once again we're told that the tomb comes with a curse, and they take the artifacts to London, and then they also say that the exhibit will open on the 3rd of March, so we're at the beginning part of 1900. We're given the backstory of Ra and his brother, both sons of Ramses the 8th, and Ra, the Egyptian, here played by, Dickie Owen, very clearly a customary Egyptian name, is killed and mummified in the past. Our title bad guy is finally unveiled, and they say that the expedition started 18 months ago, so they probably started in the tail end of 1898, right around the same time as the last movie, although they don't appear to be connected. They're not necessarily in different continuities though, as there's no reason to think that they don't exist in the same universe. They have their big show, presenting images in full color which did not actually exist in 1900, opening the tomb on stage only to find him missing. He doesn't stay gone long though, showing up and killing those that defiled his tomb, and the Scroll of Life is here, but again, it's not necessarily the same one from the other films. But also, again, it can be. He crushes the last trespasser's head, and the treacherous Beauchamp is revealed to be B, Ra's brother made immortal, and they go at it with Ra winning and then killing himself. There was only a 3-year gap until the next entry with 1967's The Mummy's Shroud, which tells us about 2000 BC and Ka-to-Bey, a pharaoh's son whose family is slaughtered as he escapes, only to die on the run and be covered in a sacred shroud. The voiceover guy tells us that we're now in the year 1920, again, making my job easy, and we're now 20 years after the last film. There's another archaeological expedition in Egypt because no one's learned by now, and of course things go wrong, but they find Ka-to-Bey and the Shroud and his guardian Prem, now a mummy. As expected, he's brought to life in order to get revenge on those that would desecrate their resting places, and he starts the violence right away. He follows the series formula, and his kills include perhaps the prototype for the Jason sleeping bag kill, and also manages to crack a guy's head against a wall where it appears there was a pre-existing bloodstain. Finally, with only Paul and Maggie remaining, they get their hands on the Shroud and manage to use it to destroy the mummy, turning him to dust in a pretty spectacular moment. Again, there's nothing to link this one to the previous films, so it's entirely possible that it's supposed to be its own thing, but like the others, there's also nothing that would keep it from being in the same universe, so its continuity is entirely up to the viewer. I'm working under the premise that they are all tied together, linked by a constant Egypt that was filled with magic and curses, and we're seeing several instances of those coming to fruition. Finally, 4 years later, in 1971, we saw the final entry with Blood from the Mummy's Tomb, which was known at the time for being an extremely troubled production. Peter Cushing was cast in it and actually shot a full day of footage before leaving the film due to his wife's emphysema diagnosis. Also, the film's director, Seth Holt, died of a heart attack during filming, actually dying on set in one of the actor's arms. So, Michael Carreras, who had previously done Curse of the Mummy's Tomb, stepped in to complete it. In this one, we witnessed the mummification of an Egyptian queen, and I think she's supposed to be dead, but she's, clearly breathing. And she has a dead ringer in the current day with Margaret here. So, no surprises as there's a dig and they find Tara's tomb, along with her ring, which Fuchs has given to Margaret, his daughter. She and her boyfriend go in search of several artifacts as Tara's power seems to have taken over Margaret, mostly resulting in her walking around in push-up lingerie. Not that I'm complaining. There's killings and Todd gets in a car wreck I think his car is supposed to be driving here. He is clearly parked. And interestingly, there's no mummy in this movie, at least not like we normally think about mummies. No one is wrapped up in bandages in this one at all. Tara has been mummified, or so they say, but she's just preserved, like we see her here. The Queen takes over more and more, getting revenge on those who took her artifacts, and the Scroll of Life makes an appearance, and eventually Tara comes alive, but Margaret is able to stab her before the whole place caves in. One of the women survives, injured and bandages, but we never find out which of them that it is. Now, this is the only entry in the series to not give the date, and none are visible throughout, but judging from the clothing and the appearances of the characters, I think it's safe to say that it was supposed to happen in present day, setting this one in 1971. And, once again, there are no indications in this movie that it is connected to any of the previous ones, leaving its continuity once again up to you, but again, I like to think that it is set in that same universe, just quite a bit later. So there you have it. It is 4 movies that, they just don't tie together. They're not supposed to. Each one can be its own thing. It's sort of an anthology, much like the Hammer Dracula and the Hammer Frankenstein movies. Same kind of thing. They're not really connected. If you want them to be, they can be, but there's nothing in the movies that specifically link them to the others. So if you want to watch them in any order, feel free. They're all pretty much worth watching. The first two are definitely better than the second two, but all pretty enjoyable. There's some great acting in here. I mean, you got Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee, can't go wrong there. A lot of great performances, a lot of great atmosphere, a lot of great music. There's just so much to love about all four of these movies, so I would check them out. If you're not a Hammer fan, these might, I don't know if these are going to convert you, but if you have an appreciation for that classic styling, you're going to enjoy these. I did. If you like these, let me know down below in the comments. Let me know what you think of the entire Hammer works of film and the different takes on Universal monsters. Let me know which ones I'm missing and what you want to see. And subscribe to the video. Please do that. Leave your comments, hit the like, share out to the entire world, and check out the patrons at patreon.com/movietimelines. These guys are the patrons. They help keep the channel going, and I thank them for that. And if you want to go there, I would really appreciate that as well too. But in the meantime, just keep on watching the videos. I appreciate that also. And in the meantime, we'll see you very shortly for another great one. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.